All right, there we go. So do we have any public comment? Anything anybody want to talk about in general? Oh, come on. So what does that say? Let's see, I still never.
So what I'm saying is I downloaded an AI program called Fathom to
Yeah,
take notes on something else I was doing. And either I gave it permissions or it got permissions to join all of my meetings. So Julie Marie's Fathom Note Taker is what that is. I don't want it recording and taking notes in this meeting. I think that you or Doriandra can remove it. Elliot did that for me last time. I keep meaning to clean it from my computer, and I have not. I don't use it for my notes. Anybody who'd like to see what it says can do so. Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yep, it's gone. And then we'll have the Google Notes.
Perfect. Yeah, I don't need it, and I need to just remove it from my computer. It's a pain.
Okay, so Julie, you're first on the agenda.
Does anyone have, I guess move. I move that we approve the meeting minutes for both the general meetings, the special meetings, and the executive board meetings in June. Special meetings happen in July, so July and August.
I second.
Right.
Do we have any comments on it?
Are there comments or questions? The August meeting, as Dan noted, the September meeting, my apologies, is not complete. So if you look at our notes in general meetings, the first thing you'll see is the incomplete September minutes. You would disregard those until I've completed them. So
Yes,
no questions.
No. Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes? Chris? Fantastic. That would be everyone, Jules. So that would be Elliot, Julie, Janet, Chris, and Margaret. And we do have a quorum. So for those of you that do not know, Claire resigned after the last meeting. And just for she resigned from all of her boards. She decided that it was taking a lot of time and energy to do what she was doing, and she was overcommitted and needed to step back and retake her personal life, which I can completely identify with.
I was going to say, I think we all get that. Just too bad to lose Claire. She's great.
She is, and she'll consider coming back, but it wasn't just us. She was, I think, on 2 or 3 boards. She served on an executive board as well, and she resigned all the way around, from what I understand. So I did not notice, and I personally will start out just the conversation about the minutes posted on the website. I had conversations regarding this, that the minutes were on the website posted through 2022. And I think that they need to be, they're part of public record. I think it's important that we have the minutes up there. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think in the past we thought that just having our YouTube page up to date with everything was enough. Do you think we should also, well, I suppose now that we have more capacity, staff capacity, maybe that makes sense to keep the website up to date. It just took a lot of effort. So if we feel like we can maintain that, then let's do it. But if we feel like in a few months it's already out of date again, it's okay to just go back to YouTube as our main archive.
Well, we have to have our. I'm sorry, go ahead, Janet.
Yeah, I agree with that thought. And do we have an established timeline as insofar as how far back we need to keep it posted? Kind of like IRS says records back 7 years, or do you have some procedure?
I don't know what the knowledge of that is, but we only have minutes that go back so far.
Yeah.
But we are required, part of our city charter and being a nonprofit is that we can't, using YouTube is new. And we actually discussed before that YouTube is a tool that people can go and watch the meetings. However, we are required to have minutes from each meeting. And I think it's a great idea, especially once they're all up there, to just add them up every month. And I will try my best, Julie, to make them just a regular line when we have our board meetings so that we don't get 2 months behind. That's partially my fault. But Chris, do you have any comments on that? And Jen, how hard would it be for you to get them up there? Oh, Julie, just what do you think?
Well, two things. I have a pop-up window that says meeting ended, view recording. Did we stop recording? But
Doesn't look like.
okay.
No. It says
Maybe that's a pop-up from Fathom. So disregard. My question is, what are the negatives of having minutes available to the public? What I can think of, though I hear your argument, Margaret, and it's pretty good. Those are public records, so they should be available to the public somewhere. The biggest downside I can see is that minutes are a synopsis of the meeting, and it's my synopsis, so this is why I send it out to everyone for corrections and approval. If you look at YouTube, you see the actual meeting, so you get all of the conversation. I'm not a stenographer. I don't record every word that is said. I try to get the gist or the sense of it. And arguably, maybe I'm verbose on that topic. So I'd be curious to hear, what are the downsides? Why do we want to remove those minutes other than we need to keep them updated? That's all.
Doriander, I think you had something to say.
Yes, in basic nonprofit, good guidance, it's not usually standard that we would make them public. There's certain examples where we would, if we had more immediate stakeholders in our community that were trying to catch up or keep track. We do have a policy recommendation document that was given to WCC, I think back in Ian's time. It looks like we paid for this. And if I can just show the screen real quickly, it's pretty helpful. But it doesn't really, it just says that the minutes should be permanent, obviously, but there is no guidance that they should be public. So I can share that document. It's just going to say minutes should be permanent, but yeah, it's really like, I think, an individual choice for an organization. It's not mandatory, though, that we would have them listed on the website.
Okay. Elliot?
Yeah, so I thought about this just a little bit more. The reason why I was somewhat against it is that having duplicate copies of things and the maintaining parallel records. But if we just list a view-only Google link to our running line of meeting minutes, then we do that once and it gets maintained by Google and it's always up to date, always with the secretary's new meeting minutes added. So then we don't really have to maintain that. So potentially that would be the solution you're looking for. And here's our running list, Control F if you want to find a specific date you're curious in, or just scroll and you see just a timeline of what we've been talking about.
So what about the previous minutes that are not on the link that we have now?
Then if we still have it, say, in a Google folder, then we can say, here's our running list from 2023, 2024. But if you want to look farther back, here's our archive folder with the individual files of minutes, and we could do that.
What do you think about that, Jen? Since you would be the one doing it.
So I could definitely do that. From a design standpoint, I don't love the way that that's going to look on our website. It's not going to look super professional. And it's not hard if I'm going to be putting minutes up in some way. I mean, I'd have to wrap my head around the best way to do it, but I don't love the idea of just posting a link. Even though I do understand it would certainly be efficient. But yeah, I would, the way that it was done before was they were kind of listed individually. And then there was a link to each one. So I don't know. I'd have to wrap my head around it, but it also would not be super time prohibitive to just make a new document and include that month. It would take me seconds, so it wouldn't be a big deal.
I personally like, now we're not just a nonprofit, we're also a neighborhood association. And as a neighborhood association, we are required to have those minutes. Whether we're required to post them or not is another story, but I don't see, I mean, you know, when I ran for chair, I ran on the premise of being transparent. And for me, posting the minutes on the website, number one, someone would have to go looking for them to find them, but it just makes sense from an archival point of view. You know, we're creating something that 5 years from now, will be completely different probably. And it will create a way that people can go back and look and see what we did 5 years ago, where people will say, who's Chris Horton? Oh, wait a minute here. Let me go back. And there he is listed right there. And so it creates a running history of us as a neighborhood association and a nonprofit and all the things that we've accomplished. Doriander, you had something to say?
Yes, back when we were trying to gather all of the minutes for, I guess it was the DOJ, I got them all collected. So what we do have in one giant sheet, if it's helpful to you, Jen, is chronological minute by meeting all the way from January of 21 through mid 22. And I think that's where they left off online or on the website. So anyway, we'll talk about that later, but we can definitely consolidate everything if that's the board's choice. We have them in one place.
Janet? Julie, do you want to go while we're waiting Janet for Janet?
No, I got it.
There you go.
Uh,
You're getting that down, Janet. Good job.
yes, I'm learning and getting new wrinkles on my horn every day. I do like the idea of being transparent. I think that builds confidence and with the community, that too many organizations secret squirrel too much. And I think having the availability of minutes keeps our organization more with the mindset of running our meetings very professionally. So I'm all for, as Margaret indicated, I believe, so I'm just saying I agree with Margaret's sentiments on this, her statements. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, Julie, we're going to wrap it up with you and then we'll make a choice.
Sure. So playing devil's advocate here for a moment, I have a relative who works for a large CPA firm, and she sat on their board as secretary and shared when I was telling her that I had become secretary here. And she had an interesting thing to say. I don't think that I like it. I'm just throwing it out as an alternate spectrum idea. She took some classes on being a secretary and taking good minutes, and shared that something she had done on recommendation from the people teaching was essentially bifurcate her notes and made her official minutes, which are discoverable, able to be subpoenaed by legal means, very, very basic. Who is in attendance, who is not in attendance, what time did the meeting start, any votes that were taken, outcome of the votes, and what time did the meeting end. So very bare bones.
That's
And
correct.
And then she wrote a set of notes, which are more close to what I do, and, you know, reporting either direct words or the gist of what people said. The notes are not discoverable in that event. The minutes are. Now, that is kind of the opposite of transparency, so I don't know that I'm advocating for it. I was just throwing out that from a legal standpoint, we are covering our minutes needs by those bare minimums.
Correct.
Whether we wish to consider changing that at all, I don't know. I hadn't brought it up because there wasn't a relevant time to do it. Maybe that's not necessary to stick that oar in the water right now. But throwing that out as an idea.
Okay, well, just for the city, we have to have notes, and those notes have to be who was here in attendance, what any motions that were put on the board or on the floor, how those motions went, what time the meeting started, what time it ended, and if we had any general, a large conversation like, geez, we talked about the breakfast brigade at Washington Jefferson Park, and that would pretty much have to be it. And what we have done is we have made the minutes so they're like that, so that you can participate in the meeting as well, because we have had secretaries in the past that were so busy taking notes that they couldn't participate. But that's also why we have the YouTube videos, because those YouTube videos, what they do is they are in place of exactly what you're talking about. Instead of taking notes regarding the meeting, we post a video so somebody can actually watch it. But on your minutes, they have the exact what we voted on, who voted on what, who was there, and just the general gist of the meeting, because we also want your participation. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to everybody?
It makes sense to me, and I could have better attention and maybe more participation if I wasn't as focused on getting down what people said or the gist of the conversation. And whether I do that accurately is a good question, because I might not be completely accurate in every sense. I'm not
Right.
getting every word, definitely.
No, and we don't need that from you. Just so we get it on the record for taking the notes, your participation in the meeting, and you being on the executive board and being a board member is important. So you taking the minutes means that you get the attendance. When we have a general meeting, we find out, because those are our official voting records.
Right.
In order for someone to vote, they have to live, work, own our own property in the Whitaker. So we need good attendance. We need actual motions and how they were voted on, and that's it. So I would like to make a motion that we have Jen attach the minutes to the website and just keep a running total there for transparency. Do I have a second? Was that
I'll
you,
second
Janet?
Oh, Janet did.
Okay, so Janet seconded. All those in favor? I think it passed unanimously. So do you have everyone that voted yes? Fantastic. And Jen, we'll just leave that in your capable hands, and Doriandra's, if you guys are okay with that.
Chris, you raised your hand. That constitutes voting yes, right? Because we can't see you.
Yes, it does. I
all I needed.
raised my hand.
Okay. Vicki Lynn, are you still with us?
I am.
I think you're up next. You and Doriandra are up. Doriandra, you're up next. So
Okay. I just wanted to share the August profit and loss with everybody, and I put it in the underneath the classes so you can see where the classes are. Let me share that real quick. Let me find that screen. Here it is. I don't know if everybody can see it. Hopefully you can.
Yeah, it's coming on.
So this is just the month of August. If we need to go back to January, we can. Okay.
Vicki Lynn, can you scroll up so that we can see more of that profit and loss sheet?
How about down like this? Does that look better? This is showing the whole thing. Here's we don't have any income listed for August because it came in 7:30 for the CDC money came in July. So it posted in July. So it looks like we didn't have anything come in August, but we did. It came in at the end of July.
Well, we're missing the CDC grant on here, which is the $4,116.
That's the one that came in July.
Don't
Came
we
in
get
July
it
30th.
monthly?
We get
Yes,
it
but
monthly.
Yes, but they paid it in July. They paid it July 30th. So in order for the accounts to reconcile, I had to put it in July's.
Okay.
Oh,
got
because
it.
that's when it deposited in our bank.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Makes sense.
So
I understand.
June, there's 2 payments in June and 2 payments in July. So
Okay.
it makes
All
it
right.
look like we don't have anything in August.
So for you guys that don't understand QuickBooks, basically QuickBooks and the bank talk to each other. And when we reconcile our accounts, the bank and QuickBooks share information. So some of this stuff just fills in on its own, which Vicki Lynn can explain, I'm sure. And just so everyone knows, the credit card thing that we talked about, do you mind, Vicki Lynn, if I share it right now?
Go right ahead.
So, so after asking for almost, a year and a half to get those credit card statements, I spent a day and a half with them on the phone after our banker spent a bunch of time, and I finally got them to release Ian's statements, and come to find out, Ian has a negative balance, which it is his card, but it's under the Whitaker Community Council. It was under his Social Security number, and it was under the Whitaker Community Council. He one time made a $30 charge for Facebook advertising, because we finally got them the statements in the other day. Dreandra and I sat and looked at them. And after that $30 in advertising was done, our accountant at that time never paid the bill. So it's $269 is owed. From that $269, all but $30 are late fees because no one ever paid the bill.
Has Ian checked his credit?
I have already talked to Ian about it. That was the hardest part. I called Ian and explained to him it doesn't show on his credit. They haven't reported it yet. We're now waiting for Delinia's statements, which they're sending. The bank had to call and beat them up a little bit to get them to send Delinia's, as well as Ian's. So I need to make a motion that we pay the $269 that's owed for the credit card from that Ian had. I'm going to call them and try to get them to waive the late fees, but if I can't, then it's $269 that we need to pay that the WCC owes. Do we have any discussion?
I second. Yeah.
Great. Any discussion about that? All those in favor? Janet, you have discussion? Or you're voting yes?
I just had one question while we're still in discussion. We put controls in for this, right? So
It's
no
all
more
been
credit.
taken care of. We don't need a credit card. We don't have one anymore.
Okay.
And why they gave the next chair a credit card when there was I don't understand the whole thing, but it is what it is. And we need those statements to completely, the reason why I brought it up now was because we need those statements to completely reconcile our accounts, which Vicki Lynn will do once we have Delinea statements as well.
Correct. And those are on the balance sheet. You don't see them on the profit and loss. That's on the
Right.
balance sheet.
But we did see it in our last board meeting and discussed it. So the second set of statements are on the way, and once we receive those, it will give us a much clearer view of what's up with that credit card balance that shows.
Do you want me to pull a report from January to now so you can see from January to now?
I don't need to. Does anyone else want to see that?
Yes.
It's
I
not
think
reconciled because of the credit until the credit card statements are completed. We're not seeing accurate numbers.
Yeah, outside of just these meetings here on a monthly basis, there isn't a great way for the board to go back and look at our financial records. Can we make those available in a PDF form in a folder somewhere that the board can access? Just share it out through the WCC Google Drive, and we put it in every month so we can access the records.
I
Yeah.
don't see why not. The records have never been right in 2 years because we've been figuring out all this financial stuff.
Sure.
So
It's
once
the
they are
records we have, though.
correct, I think that's a great idea.
Still, I'd
The only-
rather us have the records, have access to the records we have than fly blind until somebody says we're ready. So
We're
I
going to
like
be
to-
ready this month. They're on the way. By our next board meeting, we'll be spot on.
Cool. There's a motion on the floor. We can continue with that, and then I'd like to do another motion.
Yeah. Is there any more discussion about paying the past due invoice on the credit card? Great. So and it was seconded. Great.
Yep.
All those in favor? It looks like it's unanimous, Julie.
So before we move on to the balance sheet, I'd like to make a motion that all these financial exports are made available in a PDF form on a Google Drive that's accessible by all board members. Do I have a second for that motion? All
I'll
right.
second that. Oh,
Are
Janet
you wanting
seconded it.
Janet is
Are you
much
wanting them by month?
Yes, monthly, similar to how you're presenting here, it would just be made available outside of this meeting on a Google Drive.
Sure. Okay.
Should be all right. So we have a second. Any discussion on the matter?
No.
Okay.
Julie? You're muted,
I just
Julie.
want to make sure I have the correct second because it sounds like Janet and Margaret seconded pretty close. Was it Janet? Perfect. That's all I needed. Thank you.
And Doriandra, can we make that happen? Easily?
Yes,
Vicki
definitely.
Lynn?
Yes, no problem.
And just a quick question before we vote. Do we need Den's input on that? Doriandra, or no? Okay, great. He is our treasurer, so I just want to,
Oh, well,
Yeah,
I mean,
the treasurer should have access and be like
the
own
treasurer
this,
is
and it
in a
should be
meeting
made
once a
available
month
to
and
all board
sees-
members.
well,
Yeah,
I'm talking
it's-
about, should we wait to vote till we have the treasurer here?
No, the motion's on the floor.
Yeah, I understand that. And now it's time for discussion, Elliot. So that's what we're doing. We're talking about it.
I'm talking as well. So
Right.
we
So,
can
I just asked them just a quick question, if I could, please. Thank you. do you feel like, I mean, you guys meet with Den once a month or more?
Exactly. Yeah. Vicky Lynn and I meet with Den at the end of every month. We go over every single financial detail. He's completely on board with every move that we make through everything. So Den has all that information every month and could be the one to do this financial report, but he just asked us to do it. So that's why we do it. So.
Okay. So, and you think he would be all right with us voting for this without him here?
I think he would because there's, yeah, I mean, if you want me to send him an email tomorrow and ask if he thinks.
No,
Okay.
I think it's a good idea to do. I just wanted
Sure.
to, it just occurred to me that he's our treasurer and he's involved in what you guys
Yeah.
are doing on a consistent basis, which is.
Yeah, out of respect. I mean, he might have a reason why not, but I can't think of one right now. So
No, I think it should be.
I'm
I think the board should have access to have a view of what the
exactly.
financials are. That makes sense to me.
Yep. Good.
Thank you, Elliot. Did you have anything else, Elliot, you wanted to add?
Nope, that's it.
Great. Did we have a second? We did, right? Okay, all those in favor? Hi, Stephen. Fantastic. It looks like it passed unanimously.
So as soon as we reconcile the credit card, do you want me to put all those on there or just do it now or later?
Yeah, for what period are we talking about here? Should we go back to April or just so
I
this
think that we
board is-
should go back to when the grant started, the grants that we're working on now. And
So
are
I
they
think,
all on the same profit? They're all on the same profit and loss sheet, right?
Well, it depends on the fiscal year. Yeah.
yeah, we have fiscal
Correct.
years, and
So our fiscal year was just over. So perhaps we should put last fiscal year, but put the whole year in there.
Okay.
Would that be a difficult thing for you to do?
No.
Okay. That makes
Yeah.
sense to me that we, and then actually it will be better. Maybe as time goes by, we could just add every fiscal year in there. And if we ever get in the situation again, we can just say, here you go.
yeah,
Now that everything is reconciled and it's where it's supposed to be.
Mhm.
It
Yeah,
will
I
be
mean-
an easy handoff or just to give whoever it is necessary access to those records.
that's a great idea. I mean,
Again,
given
for
how much
complete transparency.
yeah, I mean, Vicky Lynn's worked extensively to fix the errors of the past from going all the way back to 2021. So that would be great to see that all cleaned up and put in a format that we're all actually able to access. So yeah, great
Yeah,
work.
so
Lynn.
if
Thank you.
If you have time, Vicky Lynn, that I think that it would be great if we, put in this last fiscal year because it just ended. And then if you could put in, if you could go back as far back as our QuickBooks do, once everything's reconciled and put it all in that folder, that would be fantastic.
Yes, I can do that.
And that will actually, as we get towards Christmas time and as things come to a close, it would also be something that would be great for us to say, okay, great, here's what we did to make sure that we are transparent and have more clarity as far as what everyone's doing with money.
Yeah.
Leandra?
Yeah, I have a question though. This would be a huge repetition of her work if we're asking her to do that right now when we haven't released the credit card statements.
No, I think that we should wait till it's reconciled. Did you send her the statements that we have?
No, I'm having trouble with the scanner, but I have it all here. So I should have that to you by tomorrow, Vicky Lynn. We just got this.
Okay. And
And
we
then
should
the
have the
second
other
one-
ones by next week.
Exactly. So I mean, if you can do the work of taking all of this off of the past before you start putting all that in there, I think that's wise because it's just wasted hours if we
Okay.
have to do it all again once it's, because we're almost
Yeah, once
there.
it's reconciled.
Yeah.
I did want to ask a quick question. QuickBooks has the ability to do the whole fiscal year on one sheet by
Yeah.
month. Would you like it like that, or do you want each individual month?
I think
Yeah, I suppose just having the ability to review all the data would be great.
Mhm.
So if just one report, an annual report, will show it all, that would be excellent. And if we're worried about billable hours, I'm sure there's a way to automate that report and just have it sent to the WCC board. And then we can manage the files from there, just as long as a copy is sent.
We're not doing that.
No, I can. It's there's nothing to put a. All I have to do is have the folder on the drive, and then I can just literally move a copy in there. That's no problem.
Thank you, Vicky Lynn. Margaret, why wouldn't we do that?
Because the WCC tried to manage the money before, and now we're in the middle of a huge investigation, and
I
that's
wouldn't
why
say
we
having
pay.
viewing the report would put us in any type of rocky boat.
I think that's what Vicky Lynn gets paid for, and I think us having access to it and seeing it is important, and knowing what we're voting on is very important. And you bring all of that to the table, Elliot. And I think that those are all great ideas, and it's completely transparent, which is what it needs to be. But as after what we have gone through as a board for the last 2 years, having paying someone that is an outside entity to do that,
I think we're confused because
maybe we are.
Yeah, I
similar
think so.
to what the motion we just voted on. The motion is having that report sent to Google Drive.
Right.
I'm just bringing up, have that also sent to an email. And then after that, we can store the file in our Google Drive from the
Well,
file.
Briandra will put it in the Google Drive and share it with the board.
Cool. Yeah.
So everyone will have access to that folder in the drive.
Excellent. I was just saying Vicky Lynn could run an automated report, so that way she doesn't have to book hours running a report for us. It'll just automatically run in QuickBooks.
Right. And I think
Yeah,
that's what it's going to
super
do
simple.
anyways. I don't think it's a matter of it taking hours.
Cool. Good.
No, it's super simple.
Right.
That's what I was thinking.
So yeah. I think we just misunderstood there. Sorry about that.
Cool. No worries. My bad.
I can't tell you how much of my time that I've put in trying to straighten all of this out. My whole first year. I mean, it was, yeah, and we're still. I mean, when we looked at that credit card statement, I was like, oh my gosh. I mean,
utterly ridiculous.
so
$30.
I guess this is not something that I really want to discuss in an open board meeting, but just generally speaking, I personally am under the opinion that we should probably send that to the lawyer.
What is that?
The credit card statement that shows
Oh.
nothing but overdraft fees every single month
I agree with that. Okay.
after a $30 charge. That's all that card was ever used for.
Yeah.
So, okay. Did you have anything else, Elliot, that you wanted to put out there and vote on?
Nope. That's it.
Okay. All great ideas. Thank you very much. And I'm sure that you guys can solicit whatever you need from Den to make that happen as well, Doriandra.
Yes.
Okay, Doriandra, I think you have some grant updates, right?
Sure. And thank you, Vicky Lynn. Appreciate all your work.
Yes, thank you very
Oh.
much.
Sorry, we didn't see the balance sheet if Vicky Lynn still has time in the agenda. I kind of took over her minutes.
Oh, okay. So
Let me pull that up just a minute.
Thank you.
Yep. The one that you sent me earlier, Vicky Lynn, that would be the one. I think you.
I sent you the profit and loss. I hadn't sent the balance sheet over,
Oh, okay. Got it.
but let me get it. I'll get it for the month of August.
Okay.
Thank you, Vicky Lynn.
And I still I have money from our fundraisers But I can't give you a total on that yet because I haven't, they're just sitting there. I haven't taken care of that yet. I've had a million things happening, but I will have that for everybody next month.
Okay. So all the accounts are reconciled through the end of August. These are all the accounts. This is exactly what the banks say. And then we have the credit card right here. This is what we're discussing right now. What we've got to get cleaned up and get reconciled.
Is the credit card just every month there's an unreconciled balance that just sums?
Yeah, it's the same amount. Yeah, it's from
Okay.
way back. The balance
Gotcha.
sheet transfers forward no matter what date you put in there.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can never get rid of that until,
No, until I get
yeah.
it reconciled, there's no getting rid of that.
And
So,
we can't do that until we have the last, we're still waiting
Yeah.
for one set of statements.
and just so
Yeah.
everybody knows, the reason we've been so meticulous about this is that Vicky Lynn could have, we could have said for her to go in and just overwrite it, but that wouldn't have been the appropriate thing to do without the proof. So that's why this has taken forever, and we're finally getting there. Margaret's done a stunning job of biting the bank to get this. So just
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I
thank
was
God.
worried about it.
Ian, I was aghast when I found out that Ian, has a
Yeah.
credit card that's unpaid out there.
Yeah, it's terrible. That's so not like Ian.
Well, it wasn't his fault.
I know. I know.
Anyways.
So for accounts payable, remind me, is that invoicing or is that? Oh, that's
You know,
we have to pay.
that's a new. I'm
Yeah.
going to look at that really quick. Hold on.
Okay.
I want to
okay.
look and see what that is because oh, this was a balance brought forward. So let me see what month that is. Hold on.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure what that is. I think we had some.
While you're doing that, also notice that in our general fund, we have about $2,000, which is just a few weeks of payroll. And I wanted to make sure that there's a plan either to supplement that from grants, that we can meet payroll and keep everybody keep all the numbers.
We don't make payroll out of general fund. So everybody understands what we're looking at here. So we separated the accounts. So the general fund is the neighborhood association. Period.
Oh, I see. Okay.
No nonprofit, none of that. It used to be that all the money went into the general fund, the nonprofit checks, the money from the city, any fundraising, it all got dumped in one account, which was part of why it's taken us so long to straighten it out, was because we had to go back through every statement, through every deposit. Where did this come from? Where did this go? What was this check for? And it all had to be reconciled and put in its own place. So what happens now, how this works, is that we have an account that is called indirect expense.
This one.
Correct. So the indirect expense used to be the general funds. So what happened, and the reason why we made it indirect expense is because that's where all of the grant funding was deposited at one time when it was called general funds. So because it has all of the grant fund history in there, we made it indirect expense. All the grant funding goes in there. Then what happens is that we take everything except for, depending on the grant, some grants are 10%, some grants are 8%, some are 15%, where you keep a certain amount of money left for indirect expenses. If we have to buy lunch, we buy lunch like we did for everyone at the 50th anniversary, that would be considered an indirect expense. It is a grant expenditure. There's a line item for it, but it was an indirect expense, so it came out of that money. So we take whatever percentage is part of indirect expenses, we leave it in that account, and then we move the remaining money into grant funding. And we do that every month. And then what happens when a grant ends and there's money left over from that grant, which we're allowed to have 10% or less left over unspent. Once it's signed, sealed, delivered, closed, we're finished with it, it's written off, then we take whatever money is left over, and that will go into general funds, into the basically it's like an administrative fee that the board that we get for running the grant. But that doesn't happen until that grant is completely done. But the general funds and the savings, those are both just WCC money.
Okay.
Doriandra?
Yeah, I just want to correct a little thing so that everyone understands that you said. It's not like there's ever money left over in a grant. That's a very, very rare thing because every single category of a grant budget has to be accounted for when I close the books with them. But the indirect expense, what's left in there, does become just like that's our, I guess you want to call it a slush fund. But I just wanted to make that tiny correction because it's very rare that we have money left over that is not accounted for. So,
well, it all has to be accounted for. Perhaps that was the
every
wrong
penny.
word.
Yeah.
But we are entitled as a community council, as a board, to a certain percentage of that money for administrative fees. And how much of it is, there's a max, but there is no minimum. So we could spend every single penny
Right.
of a grant on that grant itself, including all the indirect expenses.
And the good news is that there is some legal legislation right now that will raise the de minimis up to 15% across most of the grant. So it's oftentimes an intense struggle to even just get up to the 10%. But with the change with the legal de minimis, we'll be at a better place. And I think that they're doing that across the board to just cover the complex operating expenses it costs to run an organization such as ours. So hopefully in the future, we'll see that rate go up. And my hope is that we'll get there for the healthy homes as well. So anyway.
Well, that's great. But yeah, so they're completely separate, Elliot.
Okay. So indirect expense, savings. So we have
the savings and the general funds. That's WCC money for the neighborhood association. The rest is all grant funds.
Okay.
Except for fundraising.
How are we feeling on cash flow? Because to me, it looks low, but we've always been operating really lean. We have a 1 month's payroll in here, including savings. So I'm just, Dorianda, any red flags, anything we should worry about as a board? Or are we doing good?
We're doing really good at this point.
Okay.
We're out of the dire red place, and it's hard to kind of put it all together, but it's important to know that each grant has specific categories of how much in salary is being pulled from it versus supplies versus incentives for our community, so on and so forth. So they all kind of braid together in this very awkward way. But so where we're sitting now, we're in a good place.
Okay.
We have some spending to do, like we'll be spending down on the CHIP grant. I have to spend down by September 30th. So that's a weird thing too, when you're looking at each month to month, because sometimes it'll look very dire, but it's just a part of the appropriate spend down. And then, for instance, there'll be a big reimbursement. So we'll get, like we're waiting on a $10,800 check for past expenses, so it's so labile in terms of how it's running, but at any given time, we catch up. In other words, we catch up when it looks low, but we're in a good place right now. And as soon as our Healthy Homes grant is funded, we'll definitely be in a much more comfortable place, and we'll need it as we really embark on changing the community. So yeah, good place. No red flags.
Okay, no red flags. Good, thank you.
Woohoo! Okay. Are you, Elliot, you're good?
I'm satisfied.
Have
Yeah.
you seen everything you want?
Yep.
I know you've been waiting a while to see some of this.
Yep. I'm a production planner by trade. So
Right.
how
No,
about
thank you
you?
for your patience.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Janet? Janet, we can't hear you.
Yep. Give me a minute. I'm not real fast. Thank you, Margaret. I just wanted to thank Elliot for bringing up very pertinent questions and for the good discussion with Doriandra and Vicky Lynn. I'm very happy with the dialogue we're having tonight and clarifying things up. So I just want to give a shout out and a recognition. Thank you, everyone.
Nice. I think we're doing pretty
Thank
good.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah. We're running a little bit behind. So,
Mhm.
Doriandra, you are up.
Thank you. All right. Not a ton to report right now. We are, as I said, finishing up the CHIP grant. So that's the small garden program. There'll be a big spend down here in the next couple days before we get to September 31st. To fulfill that grant. That's the big, hairy reimbursement one that's been so arduous. But once that is done, we should look to see those final funds coming to us probably by December. I'm sure that we'll have received that whole $25,000, and that'll be done. I'll figure out those reports and do all of our expenditure and activity reporting, close that one up probably mid-October. As far as the AARP grant, we are coming down the finish line with that. All deliverables have to be done by December 15th, and I've tried to accelerate that goal list so that we would have pertinent information to give to the community on our October 5th event at the Campbell Senior Center. I've had a real heck of a struggle with Emerald. I can heartily not recommend them. But we seem to be somewhat in the home stretch here. And these 3 fiber optic hubs, I was desperate to have a nice laminated card that we would give out at our October 5th event that would have the 3 locations that people could walk to in the event of power outages. And it would be a standardized logon and password that they would have on a card that my hope is that they just keep on the fridge. So, when going back to the issues with the Emerald, this is essentially new equipment that they're trying to develop. And so I want to give them that grace. I've given them a hard deadline of this Friday, because once they figure out the complete equipment package at Eugene Mission, it can be replicated easily then finally over at Bruns Apple. And then our third fiber optic link, or our third internet hub, would be then with Starlink. So I'm sorry, I'm probably not making a lot of sense here, but once those 3 things are wrapped up, we'll be able to get that little nice laminated information card done. And our event at the Campbell Senior Center will focus on that education, talking to folks about how to do this, making sure they understand what they're seeing on their laminated card. Will be a little bit more about that event. It's going to be kind of a stripped down version of our usual disaster resilience events. We'll be primarily focusing on the AARP side of it, and we'll be passing out the cell phone chargers to the community. I did get confirmation from our CERT partners today that they will do 2 presentations for us. One will be the typical CERT table that shows all the things that us CERT members use in emergencies. And so we'll be having Jim Bell from the fire department lead for CERT there to talk about that. And then we'll have a secondary function from CERT, which is the NCOMS group, and they will lead a course on how to use family radio service radios during emergencies. These are the little cute walkie-talkies that people connect to. So my hope is also to have Joanna Felice there. She is our Whitaker ham radio person. So in emergencies, we'll learn how to communicate with the FRS radios, and then that information goes on to Joanna, and then she takes pertinent information that's happening in the Whitaker and passes it on to lead MCOMs for the city. So it'll really be a sweet little event just focused on digital connectivity and communication during emergencies. So that grant, it will be coming to a finish. And the big one, of course, that we're leaning into with eagerness now is the Healthy Homes. We are waiting on that because they are working through risk assessments for all of their grant cohorts, and they do not have a timeline on that. I imagine it's quite a lengthy job. They are examining the health of the organization, our history with grants, our ability to manage large grants, which we have definitely proven well. The second part of it is the assessment on what kind of insurance we have to increase to be able to work safely on people's homes. So there is no timeline on that. I will state, though, that it's interesting, as usual, on these big grants, I see a pattern of them being a little bit behind. So, for instance, this biennium, we're already deep into our first quarter. So that proves kind of a sense of urgency from the state side to get us sorted. So we'll be doing kind of a mad dash launch because they are behind, but we can hopefully look to that. I'm hoping October we'll have more information and we can hit the track running. So let's see, anything else? We're still steady with our CDC infrastructure grant. That's the one that supports our staffing and keeps us going with the $4,166.66 every month. We have kind of worked our way through the disaster resiliency funding from OHA. But when we think about the legislation and the things that they were focused on in this last round, emergency planning was not so much in that round. So I have my doubts that they would fund us into a new spending category. I think that the onus of public health equity right now is definitely going to be in the Healthy Homes category. The other main topics of legislation, the big major bills, were domestic violence and let's see, the four of them were the Healthy Homes, domestic violence, alcoholism, and energy efficiency. So yeah, we as an organization, we are very fortunate to be a huge provider of one of the top four there. So yep, we're just looking ahead to that. We're getting our systems ready. Every day a little bit I work on getting ready for that. I'm developing the language, the eligibility forms, the rubrics that we'll need as a group. So I expect maybe like next month when we have our next board meeting, I'll be ready to run this all by you as a board so that we're all in agreement on how we begin to engage our program. So we'll get to that soon. But that's about it for me. Any questions or any help I can offer?
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Julie?
No, I got nothing other than to agree. She's doing a great job. All these grants are amazing, and keeping all these plates in the air is pretty impressive.
Thank you. Thank you. And Julie, I want to make sure you have what you need to finish your AIP. So I will just keep you posted.
I filed the final report. They didn't ask me any money questions. They were like, what was attendance? How did you make it accessible? Tell us some positive stories. What were the best thing that happened? Send us some pictures. So that went in, a week or 10 days ago.
Great.
I should look back so that I can make a little note to look for our money.
Great. And if you can, it would be so great. I mean, every grant that I work on in that is in our drive so that we have all of our grant documents, our activity reports, our templates, all that. If it's all in one place, it's really helpful for continuity. What are you laughing at, Margaret?
Look at the screen.
What is, what's,
Janet.
it's Janet's hand. Good grief, Margaret. You need a vacation. I'm so glad you're going on vacation.
Were you
Anyway.
talking
I
to me?
should've-
I had to step outside. What did you say?
No, it's
Nothing.
fine. It's okay.
Oh,
You're okay.
So it sounds
Okay.
like you would like something of like a screenshot of what my final report is uploaded to you.
No, just in the drive. If we have a folder for each grant, it will help for succession. If you're ever gone and somebody else
Okay.
picks up the AIP grant, they can go in and see the structure, what's required, and then they can replicate it. And that's
Okay.
just what I try to do for every grant too, so that, because I don't know, we could all be eaten by hippos tomorrow or something. And then, right? So then our future people down the line can keep the ball rolling. So that's all.
Okay. Well,
And
hopefully
then-
not eaten by hippos. And
Yeah.
I will look. I didn't screenshot it. It was like a questionnaire that the link sent me to. So if I can get it, I bet you they did email me receipt of it. So maybe there's a link to look at my answers there. That's a good point.
Sure.
I'll make myself a note.
Yeah, just might help you too next year if we
Absolutely.
and then I have your reimbursement check. I'm going to get it to you tomorrow. So
Sweet.
yeah,
Thank
for
you.
the AIP. So we're all set with that. And yeah, great. Okay. You
All
okay, Margaret? Have you recovered yourself from the giggles?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right.
Are you good? Any questions? Elliot, you have any questions for Doriandra? Chris?
Yeah, I have a question. So right now we're taking on a lot of grants, and I know that maybe in the future we might want to slow down a little bit. Is there potentially foundations or other grant sources that will provide us more for ongoing expenses rather than like a project? Because I know we run a project and then we get a small cut for administration, but have we worked with maybe foundations that will just supply us with funds to continue our work and to pay staff and things like that? I'm thinking like OCCU Foundation, like one of these credit union ones or one of these local ones. Have you ever worked with any of them? Or
Great question. What I have found so far in a couple different like grant speed dating times, which is really fun. You show up and there are tons of grantors in the room. And then just all of my online searching and researching. The problem is that operating grants are very small and few between. And when they are available, they are for an amount that's just a drop in the bucket, for instance, 2,000 or 4,000. And so from this side of it, all of the work it takes to actualize it and do the reporting and the contracts and stuff, it's to me now 8 months into or 9 months into this as a new grant writer, an ED, I'm finding that those would just be more chaos or more minutia. And so my preference for us is to stick with these larger grants because they're very generous inside of them for staffing, for board training, for capacity. So our operational budgets are really safely tucked inside of the big, larger projects is what I have found. So, and to be fair, it's true. I mean, in the beginning, in January, when I started this, I was going after a lot of them, right? So we had 3 little ones, which have been wonderful and they've given back to the community immensely, but it's been hard to cover our operating expenses with those tiny ones. So great question, but yeah, I feel like our most effective work is found in the umbrella of the larger projects.
okay, all right.
And,
Does that help?
just to clarify for you, we're actually going to have less grants soon
Yeah,
because I believe right now we have 5
we
and
have
we're
5
about ready to close 2.
2 are
and we'll-
closing. Yeah.
Well, 2 are closing, which will leave us with 3. And then one of those will close fairly within not too long, and then we'll have the
big one.
the funding grant for our staff, the tobacco grant, right? Isn't that what that was? And
Yeah, it's
the healthy homes, and that will just be down to 2. So we're
Right.
actually getting less.
Right. We'll have the CDC infrastructure, which is our main $4,000 one every month, and that is specific for operating.
Right.
So that's what we do have secured, and I was instrumental in getting that first one, and I believe that they may be refunding capacities in that. This would be our third potential grant with the CDC Foundation, who are great. We have a great relationship with them. So thank you, Margaret. That's a great example of an operation one that has some longevity if we can maintain that relationship, and that's a great one to have. So 4,000 goes a huge way every month in managing our overhead. So yeah,
You're doing a great job at maintaining those relationships, Doriandra. So just to answer your question, Elliot, you're correct. But it's the attrition is taking care of that problem on its own.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I suppose I was just worried because grants is how we pay our bills,
Mhm.
and us going into attrition and going from 5 to 2, I'm worried, will we still, because you've seen our books, we're very lean on cash.
Mhm.
Yep.
Well,
Will
part of it.
to pay the bills, or do we need to seek corporate sponsorship on the nonprofit side of the business for events?
Well, we just got a
Mhm.
$750,000 grant, which is more than the other 4 grants combined were that Doriandra got. So,
Right.
and it's a huge deal, and it will allow us to do more.
And the thing is interesting. I mean, since I came on in January in this role, I have been really trying to research and figure out as much as I could a development platform for the WCC. We are a strange organization, and this is kind of an odd board in the sense that a lot of boards, I don't know, in performing arts or over at U of O for the what they do is that it's almost this. I mean, I don't mean this badly, but it's like a pay to play, right? We don't have that. We have like a completely organic, incredible board that totally represents the diversity of the Whitaker. And so we've never had that internal development income. And it's something that as a nonprofit, I have to develop so that we have that secondary form of funding. That's why we have our fundraising account in the bank. And Margaret's done incredible work like in the community trying to engage more of the actual fundraiser events. We've had a great one last week at Hot Valley. But that I believe is really what we're missing as a nonprofit is a very strong development strategy. And it's hard to be the grant writer, the grant actualizer and manager, and then also develop that. But, like Chris Horton had great impetus with thinking about developing a business committee for the board, which that is one way to jump in with a development strategy, because if we're having our community businesses support us more as we support them, there's reciprocity funds potential there. So we're just a unique group, and we don't have like the normal kind of funding that most would do. But I completely agree with you, and it keeps me up at night sometimes that we are grant funded primarily, and that's not enough. We have to kind of change that and put more life into it. And I think about it often. So we do. One good thing is, OHA, as part of our grant relationship as cohorts with them, they offer, I'm in weekly meetings with them, and that was something I brought up to them months ago. I was like, how do we, as small community-based organizations on the ground working for social equity, have time or ability to like create development platforms? So they, it's a common problem with these small groups like us. And so they're offering a really neat 3-part training session on how to amplify our goal, how to amplify the way that we communicate with funders, development, not grantors, but funders in the community. So Jen Vincent, our awesome communication manager, will be jumping on those training sessions soon. And so she'll kind of get a roundabout as to how to maybe we would start to do that. So it's a plan that's simmering, and we're slowly gathering more information and education about it. So thank you for
Awesome.
that.
Okay.
All right. Briandra, are you done?
Yes, ma'am. I'm
Okay,
done.
because we're running a little behind here. Okay.
Thank you all.
Code of conduct. So it's been emailed out to everybody more than once. I hope you all had a chance to read it. It's funny, I was when I first started on the board, Chris Gatsby was the chair, and Thea told me that the way she put it is she said that Chris Gatsby made everyone, and if you knew Chris, you would understand what I mean by that, but that he made everyone sign a code of conduct. So after, in light of some of a few things that have happened recently, and in talking to the city, it is important that we put a code of conduct out there. Has everyone had a chance to go over it? Because it's been in your email boxes and it's been changed a couple of times. I know that some people had some comments about it originally, and then we went over it again. For me, myself, the only thing that I would say is it says that people will volunteer an hour a month. What I would say is that we volunteer 4 hours a quarter, which is the same thing. However, as we get into the winter, we're going to have less events. Like we had a lot of events over the summer. But come, January, February, March, there's not going to, December, there's not going to be a lot of events happening. And volunteering could mean that you're hanging posters. Volunteering could mean one thing that Briandra didn't talk about, but she will at another time, is that we're partnering with the mission to get volunteers from the mission to come out and work within the community. And they're giving credits to the people at the mission to help them graduate whatever their program they're participating in. So it's a great partnership that we have going on. So you could come out and volunteer with them. There's so many things you can volunteer if you know how to do the website, and Jen needs help with something, and you say, okay, great, I'll spend an hour or two doing that. There's so many things. Volunteer doesn't mean having to leave your house or having to do anything specific. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but I would say 4 hours a quarter minimum. Elliot?
Yeah, I'm fine keeping in the 1 hour per month, because you brought up a great point, is that you could do anything. You could even knock on people's doors and say, hey, have you heard of the WCC? You're a member, that kind of thing. Like so if we want to just keep the wording we have, because I think it's the same message. It's basically the same outcome, right? And it's good to just kind of have a routine of always be volunteering. Yeah, that's my opinion on that.
Okay. Julie?
I actually raised my hand to say the same thing. There are 720 hours in the average month. We can spend one of them volunteering. Join a committee. Get on the Public Health and Safety Committee. Join another committee if you're more interested. The Social Justice Committee that Stephen has been working with. Come to an event. Join Adopt a Block or Elliot's cleanup nonprofit.
Cleaners.
Walk around and clean. Walk around and clean. That doesn't involve any schedule or anybody else. I think 1 hour a month is very, very easy and is not an unreasonable standard. And it says strive, commit to volunteer and strive. So if someone does 4 hours on one day and then doesn't volunteer for the next few months, that seems okay to me. Anyway, that's my take on the volunteer hours.
Well, so you think it should stay an hour? Because there is, I mean, there's as we go through, you know, if somebody goes 3 months and doesn't volunteer to do anything, and it says an hour a month, I mean, it's not like we can take away their birthday or anything, but you know, it's like, come on, you're here to volunteer. What's going on? There's a big difference between 4 hours a quarter and 1 hour a month.
I see that as semantics.
So you think we should leave it as at an hour a month?
I'm happy with an hour a month, and I think
Okay.
that's an incredibly easy standard, but you could say 1 hour per month or 4 hours a quarter.
Say average 1 hour per month.
Average 1 hour a month. If I do, I mean, it's not great if I do 12 hours in 2 days and then don't volunteer again for a whole year.
Yeah.
But
I think it would be great to have that in there as like a trigger for a conversation and be like, hey, you haven't been active in like 2 months here. Why are you on the board? Why did you join? Like, what's going on? You know, and that triggers that conversation. And then you can point to this and be, hey, we expect you to be consistent with your volunteering, you know.
Right. I think an average is a great thing. I think that gives it a little bit of a gray area. I would that sounds good to me. That's a great compromise.
Good. I
Janet?
just wanted to say that. So good.
Janet?
Is it self-regulated or is there a check-in point? Are we going to be policed on? Is
Well,
this for
it's
just
things like-
board? I'm not real clear. Is it for board members to
Yes.
commit to an hour outside of the meeting times that somehow we gotta walk the neighborhood or say we've got more than just meetings? Is that what? And who's
but
going
Janet,
to?
you know what? You would be you would already be recognized as a star in this. I mean, you came
Why?
to our 50th anniversary and you were there for like 3 hours. You
Yeah,
came
and
to Oakshire, you were there
and I
for
got
a couple
yes.
hours. I mean, you
Well, okay.
show up to events and you're
Okay.
there to talk to people and you're there to communicate with the neighborhood and you enjoy yourself and you represent the WCC well in a public forum.
Well,
And-
I am very easily entertained, and sometimes I'm a little entertaining. So
right, but that's what
I'm
it's
in a
saying.
good
It does not,
environment.
the meetings do not count. It's
Yeah.
saying outside of the meetings, like
So
when
how do
Julie
you
needed.
document? That's my question. Are we going to document, or just that's a silent performance that we do?
I think it's an honor code, frankly. I mean,
Okay.
volunteering.
that-
outline.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Janet, that's why I put to strive, you know, it's
Yes.
to strive towards this. It's
And-
nothing mandatory. Nobody's going to be checking hours. I mean,
Yeah.
we yeah, everybody on this call shows up and
Yeah.
volunteers. There's a lot of folks that haven't in the past, but this
and
is
I'm not dismissing. I think it's an important element of civic involvement, engagement. I'm not dissing it. I'm just wondering how it's going to be measured or ensured, or lack of a better word, policed. Honor system says it all for me. So thank you.
Yeah. Are there any other questions, Julie?
I was just going to comment that I was asked last year to provide Thea a list or a total number of how many hours I gave to the WCC. I think that was part of reporting to the city.
It used to be, yes.
Is that no longer the case?
I don't think so because they've never asked us for them.
Okay, I haven't been asked this year. I do have a
They would-
note for my AIP grant because I needed to give a certain number of hours. But that was kind of in response to Janet's question, is that maybe it's good to keep a tally, but maybe that's not a thing anymore.
That's actually a good question. Now that you bring it up, I've been my mind has been other things. If you could remember and shoot me an email to the Whitaker and say, hey, remember to ask Cindy about the hours and are they still doing that, or is the new NORP, is that not required?
Okay, maybe Doriandra has some insight, and if not, I will ask you when you're back from vacation.
Thank you. Doriandra?
Yeah, that was, Elliot had a good point. And then, yeah, this is really smart because I always have to account for volunteer hours on all of our activity reports for grants. So we should get a system in place. I mean, for me, it's kind of easy because whatever, it's too laborious to go into it, but it would be good if we had this, and especially if we need it for the NORP. I don't know.
You remember when every month they would ask us, how many hours did you volunteer this month?
Yeah,
And the
exactly.
secretary did.
And we
Because
needed
Angie
that
used
for
to
like,
always ask us, and she would get pissed off because nobody would email her back.
yeah, exactly. So let me think on that. I'll figure out a way that we could streamline that and calculate. Yeah, I could just probably go back to the way I did it with the clinics, because we'd had it all. I'd make a schedule, and then we'd add up all the volunteers' hours. So let me think on that. I'll come up with something.
And the good thing about that as well is when we do an event, like I'll send out and say, okay, great, we're there for 4 hours or for 6, who could be there from 4:30 to 6:30 and 6:30 to 8:30. And rarely do I get any response. People will respond and say, yeah, I'll be there, but they won't pick a time. They won't tell me when they're coming. If we had a report like that, it would help me not end up standing at a fundraiser by myself until 10 o'clock at night. Okay, is there anything else on here that we want to talk about?
I like it.
Can we scroll to the bottom, please, Doriandra? So it is important that everybody does understand. And I talked to the city about this. And they said yes, that we can add that, and that adding that, we will send a copy of this to the city, and they will add it along with our diversity inclusion statement. Infractions of this statement on a personal or professional standards of conduct are to be reported directly to the WCC chair, who shall, in their determination, bring the infraction to the full executive committee. A warning and or request for resignation from the board may be determined. So just so that everyone understands what that means, is that if we're in when we're in a general meeting and it's a WCC board meeting, and we're there, we're there as representatives of the board. I understand that we all live in the community and that we all have our own opinions, and that we have our own feelings about things, but it's really important that we conduct ourselves as a board member and follow our charter as far as what it says. And, if we want to go all rogue and go sidelined about certain things, then that's something that you are perfectly capable of doing on your own. I see you there, Elliot. Hold on one second. But at a board meeting, at a general meeting, when we're representing the board, we need to represent the WCC. That being said, and I don't know who it was, but just so that the board is aware, and it did not come. So I talked to the city regarding the letter that was written that I signed, that Thea wrote, and we approved. And all those people that came to that meeting last week, they all had a copy of it somehow. So either someone from the board or someone from the city released that to public released that to some organizations that did not agree with what our statement said and that twisted some of the things that it said. And I talked to the city, and that statement was never released to the public. It didn't even make it that far. It was a matter of public record once we sent it to the city, but they never even sent it to someone yet. We haven't even received a response from it. And I talked to Kelly Shadwick, and she told me that it only went to the people that were listed on the email. So that being said, it is a huge infraction of our of the board and our sorry, I'm a little tired, but you know, of our confidentiality. And I don't know that anyone from the board did it. Don't misunderstand me, but that would definitely be an infraction of a code of conduct, would be to send a document like that out to the public without the board knowledge. So I just thought that I would let you guys know at this point that that did happen. And we'll never know who did it probably, but we all know what it caused because we were all there. Elliot, what did you have to say?
Yeah. Oh, it's on this wording here. Are to be reported directly to the WCC chair. So it sounds like it's a funnel. And in the past, we've had WCC chairs that are rogues and are doing crazy things. Should we maybe add one more? Have another person like the vice chair? Have it sent to 2 people and then be filtered? Because
Well,
I'd
I'm
hate
going to
for
tell
the
you the way.
report to be against the chair, and then the chair says, no, this isn't viable, this is nonsense, and then it goes nowhere, you know? And you have to sidetrack people.
Well, the chair can't do anything with anything unless they take it to the executive committee, according to this. And the executive committee, you know, can at that point do something about it. And clearly, if someone did something to violate that was that big of a violation, the whole board would know. I mean, I don't think there would be no hiding it. You know what I mean? And it's just following the chain of command. That's, so to speak, with whatever that means, because we all have an equal vote. Julie, what do you have to say?
Well, Margaret, I hear you about the chain of command. The chair is the person who should be, in theory, making these determinations, but Elliot has a very valid point. If we have a chair who is off the rails in terms of ethics and ethical behavior, and they get the infraction and say, like Elliot said, this is not worthy of being pursued, then it seems like it hamstrings the executive committee. Sorry, I'm always talking about changes to documents. If we're making changes, I'd like to see it reported directly to the WCC chair or whatever we change that to, if we change it, in writing. That's sort of implied, but these documents tend to spell that stuff out, and this should not be something reported verbally. So that's all I got. I like it well enough to vote for it as it is, but if we're refining, then in writing and maybe to the entire executive. I don't know how to solve that chain of command issue.
There's people that so I'll just give you an example, and I understand what you mean too, Elliot, because I've worked for chair. I've been in boards like that. Yeah. But I will tell you recently, so I've had someone reach out to me and say, hey, I don't want to reach out to the whole board regarding this, that, or the other thing because of a rogue member of the executive board. Because they felt like they were being singled out from a member of the executive board, and they didn't feel safe. So, either way, I mean, it could go either way. I hope that we don't ever get in, all I can do is hope for the best and look for solutions. Doriandra, what do you have to say?
Just as a staff member here for a long time now through 4 different boards, I really kind of have to agree with Elliot almost that like there was a time when a certain chair member would not have taken anything seriously, and the presence of a vice chair there as a secondary point of contact would have proven really helpful. So I feel like expanding it to vice chair is also quite
Well,
useful.
we're not going to have a vice chair in 2 weeks.
That's true.
But this is a permanent.
We could put WCC chair and or executive committee, and or a member of the executive committee.
I'm also comfortable just putting in writing, so at least there's receipts of, say, a notice, and then if nothing happens, potentially then there's receipts saying, hey, I sent this over a month ago, nothing has happened. But then, of course, that would be going past this clause and like sending it to others. So
Right. Well, for me, I would get, I try to get everything in an email. If somebody came to me and said, "Hey, this is how I feel," I'd be like, "Oh man, gee, I'm so sorry. I can't repeat your words specifically. Will you please just send it to me in an email so I could share it with the executive board?" But you are correct. That doesn't mean in a year that is going to be what it is. But tell me, Doriandra, so we're only board members for a year, and this is something that will have to be redone again in April. We can vote right now and say, yes, we want to put this in here. And in April, depending on what happens, the new board will have to re-sign it.
2 reasons. One,
There'll be new board members.
right, but from an organizational point, to write this document and then our employee handbook, I'm going straight back to our advocates for the Center of Nonprofit Oregon. These are standard documents that I think carry over to future boards because it's simply part of, that was something I was trying to do in this job role, is to create standard documents that would carry on. And I think that this is standard practice in other nonprofits. I don't think that these things need to be done every year or every new board. It's you come into the board and you have a proper footprint of what is expected, how we do things, and that's a continuity pattern that I think is really relevant.
Right. And I'm not disagreeing with that, but like I'm saying, Chris Gatsby had one, but I never saw anything like it.
Right.
So, clearly, things change, as you already very well from chair to chair. But I think if we just change it to the WCC chair and or the executive committee, how do you guys feel about that?
sure, it's
Which
already
gives
being
the
sent
person the
to
freedom to.
committee.
They also, there are people that you can be afraid of a little retribution from, and I don't ever want a board member to feel like they're going to have retribution. So if they want to reach out to someone else on the executive committee, that's great. And then it would be at that point the executive, whoever they reached out to, they would need to bring it to the whole committee, not to the board, but to the executive board.
Yeah,
which is different.
Okay, so do you agree with the changes I just made then? I think they reflect what Chris said, and then
WCC, I'll remember. I think what happened.
Oh, sorry, Janet, you took over our screen sharing.
oops.
Maybe Doriandra.
All right,
or-
hold on a minute. No,
All right, thanks.
stop.
I think I can change it from here. I think you just put, oh, no.
No, I hit stop and it's not doing anything.
Okay.
Yeah, Janet, if you go to no, you're super close. The 3 vertical dots will pull up more information.
Yeah, I did that.
Yep, and stop. Oh, yep, stop
I hit
sharing.
no, it keeps
Right in the middle there. Stop
around.
sharing. It's a gray button.
Yeah, I hit it like 3 times.
Oh, not.
Stop
I'm
right here.
talking-
You're sharing screen. Stop. Stop. It's not.
I think Janet needs to do
That's
it.
it. That's it. Stop sharing. Oh no, you said got it.
No.
Your option.
For me, it looked like. So who's doing this?
It's Janet.
Okay.
Yeah, you had it right. Stop sharing, but then you did the other option. Janet, you see where it's there's a little box says you are sharing your screen, stop. Yes, click on that. You're sharing your screen, stop. You're sharing your screen with everyone, stop sharing. It's a gray button. Otherwise, we can just kick Janet and invite her back. I'll just reset it. All right, we can hear you now, Janet. There's this, you're sharing your screen with everyone, stop sharing. It's a little box now, right next to Jennifer. Yeah, it's kind of, you guys are hosts.
Okay.
Janet, is it cool if we just
Hold.
it's on the screen where you see all our faces.
Miranda, can you kick Janet from the meeting and she can just sign back in? Do you have the ability to do that? Because it keeps moving around for me and I can't grab it. You're on mute, Miranda.
I'm not a co-host. I just jumped on the meeting, so.
Right. So here we
we have
go.
to-
Oh, damn it.
Doriandra, you're a meeting host, I believe.
Oh, there we go.
Okay,
She
she
found
left.
it. Okay, great. All right.
Try that again.
So can we make it the whole screen again, please?
Yeah, let me try to do that. There we go.
Cool.
Okay.
Hi, Janet. Welcome back.
See, now I would disagree with this. I think I'm not in their determination because, you know, if they bring it to, no matter who they bring it to, I think that they should bring it to the executive committee.
Okay, we could just remove the WCC chair in their determination and just make it, well,
No,
or
I think we should remove just bring it to the get rid of determination therein and just put bring the infraction to the full executive committee. So whoever they bring it to, whether it's the chair or a member of the executive board, that they then bring that to the full executive committee.
I like that. If the person has concerns about being public, it could be asked to be anonymous, perhaps. And
Not
for
if,
the full board,
well,
for the
that's
full
why
board.
it's not being brought to the whole board. It's only being brought to the executive committee.
Right, but if someone has concerns about retributions from someone on the executive committee, but I like the change in writing directly to the chair or a member of the board who shall bring it, not in their determination. If it's brought to you, then you will bring it to the full committee. I like it.
Okay. Are we all in agreement on that?
Yep.
And Briandra, does it, and please remind me, I'm pretty sure that we took care of this, but it does address sharing confidential internal conversations within the board outside of the board, correct?
Yes, I have
Okay.
that. Let's see, hold on, let's go here. That would be down here on number 8, respect and protect privileged information to which we have access in the course of our official duties as WCC board members and staff. And then it's also up above in our number 4, agree to avoid communication with media or stakeholders regarding WCC business and programs without formal discussion and approval by the board. That would be perfectly aligned with what you were talking about, how our letter was released to the public without.
Correct. And also, like, you can't send a letter to the city and sign Whitaker Community Council at the bottom because it's your opinion and what you think without the board
Right,
discussing it.
right.
Okay. So did we lose Janet, or did she make it back in?
She's back.
I made it
Okay.
back in. Would you do a quick summation of someone real quick? It doesn't have to be real detailed, just a quick summation. I was bleeped out for a minute and I had to figure it out to get back in.
We just changed the wording at the bottom where it says to report to the chair. Now it says report in writing. See, I mean,
I think
if somebody wants to have a conversation and then somebody says, I need you to put that in writing and email it to me. I mean, we can leave in writing there, I guess, but
It avoids mistakes in memory.
Yep.
It avoids
Well,
they said this, I said that.
Yep.
if it's serious enough to be brought up at an executive where the questionability of the president or anyone on the executive board, I think the seriousness of it speaks to addressing of it in writing, because that does not bring forward people with hearsay or trivial issues. I think if someone takes the effort and the time to bring it to attention to the executive board, that almost, even with city complaints or recommendations, it's usually almost always done in writing. If it's a
right.
serious
I'm
enough-
not arguing whether it should be done in writing or not. I mean,
Right.
obviously they need to put it in writing. And it doesn't matter. I'm just saying if somebody wanted to come and talk about it and then be told, well, you need to put it in writing, but it's
Yes.
fine. It
Yeah,
doesn't
I
matter.
agree.
It's great the way that it looks.
I
Of
agree.
course, it
I
has to
agree.
be
I'm
put in writing.
fine. I am fine with that. Yes.
So I make a motion that we pass the code of conduct. Do I
I
have a second?
second.
Great. Do we have any more conversation regarding this? Okay, great. All those in favor? Fantastic. I think everyone voted yes, Julie. We're making your job easy tonight. So this will be emailed to each and every board member. And we do need to sign, date it, and then print our name in it. And if we don't have a scanner, perhaps we can get it at the AARP event. And we can bring it and then Dorandra will create a file in the drive for it. Or Jen will create a file in the drive and load all the documents in the drive so that we have them saved for future reference, as well as a copy of the original. All right, so really quick, we're running out of time here. We have 5 minutes left. Did everyone, can we vote really quick on the employee handbook that we're voting on, that I hope everyone read? Number one, we have to send that to the Center for Nonprofit, or to Sarah. We'll send it to Sarah, who we met last month, and it has to be approved as an employee handbook for by our attorney. So we only have a couple minutes left. Has everyone had a chance to we have to vote on it before we send it, because I don't want it to be sent to her and then her say that looks great.
There's a comma after shall in the.
Oh,
So don't
I
worry
got it.
about it. Hold on. I'm having a whole different conversation.
I'll fix it here. There
Sorry.
we go. It's fixed, guys. Thank you,
Right,
Stephen.
thanks.
so can we vote? Do we need discussion on the employee handbook? Do we need to move it to next month's meeting?
I don't know. I mean,
I would like to make a motion that we pass the employee handbook as is, and that we send it to the lawyer, and upon approval, that's it.
I second.
Okay.
Okay, is there any discussion?
I've got something just again to assure folks, this is standard stuff that I worked from our advocates at Center for Nonprofit Oregon. So it's all compliant with Oregon laws, and it just emphasizes punctuality and goodness, and it's got a lot of non-disclosure stuff in it, and it's got everything that a good nonprofit should have. So it's laborious. It's over 18 pages long. It's horrible. So
Great. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, Elliot.
Oh, no worries. I was saying I read it. It's boilerplate. It's good.
great.
Great.
And then,
All those in favor?
thank you, Elliot.
Okay, it passed with flying colors. Fantastic, Dorandra. We can send that off really quick. We have 4 minutes left. We do have a bill for $250, and it's over the $200 mark. I think it's $250 for the Center for Nonprofit. They have to file paperwork every year stating that they are that they represent us, basically.
Registered.
That they are our it's paying our registration fee, that they're our registered lawyers. And so I need to make a motion that we pay that money, and that'll come out of general funds. Do I have a second?
You bet. Janet's your second.
Okay, great. All those in favor? Fantastic. All right, we still have about 2 minutes. Do we have any comments about last month or last meeting?
Yeah, one comment. I think next time that happens or ever happens, I think we just had to leave. Like, we just sat there for 2 hours and got yelled at. Like, there was no meeting. We just went around the room and let people yell at us.
Well, welcome to the Whitaker, Elliot.
I know.
That's what happens here.
I think we were about to leave, and then it got a little better, and we saw hope. I think we just had to say, no, it's done. Like, yeah, it's done. That's
the Whitaker. I'm
That's the
telling you,
Whitaker.
that's how it goes. Chris,
Because I guess
sorry,
I don't
Janet,
have it
we
in
have
me.
1 minute. Chris?
Yeah. Oh, my hand's still raised. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, so really
I
quick.
heartily agree. When it starts to get that, I say close it up and
Well, it's the Whitaker. That's, if we did that, we would hardly have a meeting that was worth any substance.
someone
really
must
quick,
civilize the wild, though.
really?
Yes.
Sometimes you have to crawl in the lion's den. That's just how it is.
Rarely.
Thank you, Elliot, for making that happen.
Yeah. I hate
It's
that
all
we're
right.
like the
That's
middle
a private
management
joke.
of the
It's a
city.
private joke. So, Julie, you have any ideas for the next general meeting? You want to help plan something while I'm on vacation?
Not really, but sure. Uh, I loved Janet's teacher's whistle as well. Dorianda, did you have something you wanted to share about that event last week?
Just it was awesome, Janet, when you took out that whistle and started to try to keep order. It was brilliant. And just Margaret, you did a stunning job. I felt like you were
Yes.
standing in the middle of a like chaotic traffic circle and with absolute anarchy, and you did a stunning job. And I was proud
you.
for your leadership. So
Thank you.
Sure.
So I
Margaret,
do
can
actually
work
have
on-
some ideas for the meeting, but you know what? We'll talk about it in a
Yeah,
week.
shoot that to me and I can work on that while you're gone. We've got time before the next meeting. You should go on your vacation and enjoy yourself. Don't think about the WCC at all.
All right. You guys
We
have
got
a great night. I will see you all next month.
Bye, everyone.
thank you
Thank
all.
you very
night.
much.
Good
Thanks
night.
for coming, Chris.
Appreciate
Good
you
night.
all.
Elliot, it's
You
been a
will be missed.
pleasure.
You will be missed, Elliot.
Night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.